Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Vangelis Karkaletsis, the Director of the Institute of Informatics and Telecommunications at the National Center for Scientific Research, Demokritos, here in Athens. I would like to thank a lot the organizers for giving me the opportunity to participate and moderate this panel that fits the discussion in this panel, and I think you will realize this, fits very well with presentations, with the excellent presentations we had before. We heard from General Bouras about the national initiatives with respect to defense innovation. We heard from Dr. Dokos about national policy and the need to complement with EU and NATO policies. And also an excellent presentation by Mrs. Kavada about space and Earth observation, which I also think is a game changer for Europe, as you very well said. We have heard before about the technologies. They were listed by the previous speakers. Similar technologies, key technologies, are the ones that are announced also by the European Union. Recently, the European Union announced the 10 critical technology areas for the EU's, and I'm reading from the announcement, economic security, considering synergies between civil, defense, and space industries. And if you have a look at that list of 10 critical technologies, you will see a lot of similarities with the ones that were presented by NATO. So we all agree on the emerging and disruptive technologies for defense. Furthermore, recently, a few months ago, the EU issued a white paper launching a public consultation on EU-level research and development support involving technologies with dual-use potential, defense and civilian use. And in this document, they review the current funding programs of the EU and how can this be exploited further and more effectively in the face, as it was stressed before also by Ms. Kavada, of the existing and emerging geopolitical challenges. Similar things we hear from NATO about the technologies, about initiatives. Some of them were mentioned. Diana, the Defense Innovation Accelerator, the NATO Innovation Fund. But how about complementarities between all these initiatives, national initiatives, European initiatives, NATO initiatives, in the face of all these challenges that we are currently meeting? It is great that in this panel, we have, the synthesis of this panel is really great because we have representatives from all these three types of initiatives. We have with us Peter Huijsindveld, who is the Deputy Director at the Netherlands Industry for Defense and Security. I consider this as something very much relevant to our initiative for the Center for Defense Innovation. We have a representative from the Commission, Mr. George Yiannopoulos, Deputy Director of JRC, so we can hear more about the EU initiatives, and also Vasilis Theodosopoulos, an expert with a role in EU, in the European Union, in NATO, but also in industry. So I would like to invite our three panelists here, starting from Mr. Vasilis Theodosopoulos. Hello. Peter Huijsindveld. No. Do I pronounce it okay? Thanks. And George Yiannopoulos. So this panel is about innovative developments in defense technology, opportunities and exploitation of emerging technologies. This panel, following the previous presentations, aims to present the context, national, EU, NATO, and discuss some of the issues that have already been raised. I will ask the three panelists, starting from Vasilis, to give 3 minutes, because the time is really limited. As they told us, we only have 30 minutes. Just 3 minutes presenting yourself and your priorities before starting the discussion. Then we will continue with Peter and George.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for the opportunity to be here and address this very distinguished audience. Just very quickly before we start, because the ASD doesn't mean a lot to many people in here. ASD is the umbrella organization representing the aerospace, security, and defense industries at the European level. So we represent the European defense aerospace ecosystem vis-à-vis the EU and NATO mostly. So I will be very quick. I will try to be very quick. Since 2022, we have seen an emphasis on ramping up production capacity. All the attention is on producing more and faster. But sometimes we tend to get a bit caught up in the zeitgeist, and we forget that in war, quality is no less important than that quality is no less important than quantity. Which means that we need to pay attention also, of course, to this critical element, which is technological excellence, to defense technology. And this is what industry delivers. Industry supplies, produces, delivers, integrates, and maintains this technology that allows our armed forces to have technological superiority over potential adversaries. As a result, therefore, the European defense industrial base in aggregate must be able to deliver those capabilities as well. And in order to do that, it must always stay at the leading edge of technology. We cannot stay still. Otherwise, our adversaries will surpass us with, of course, very negative repercussions on the battlefield. And we can see this, for example, in Ukraine. So what this needs in order to happen is the defense industry, of course, needs consistent and adequate R&D investment. Right? Otherwise, it cannot be done. The model of the industry does not allow. It needs support. However, this is not what we are seeing today. Today, across Europe, R&D investment still remains anemic. And if I can take a very easy example at the European level, we have seen a lot of new initiatives over the last couple of years coming from the EU side. We have seen DEFEA, we have seen ASAP, we see now the EDIP, the European Defense Industrial Program. And at least for ASAP and DEFEA, we saw that they were funded partly by cannibalizing the European Defense Fund, which basically means that we sacrifice tomorrow's capabilities to plug today's gaps. This is not sustainable in the long term, at least. If we want to be war ready, and if we want to be war ready for the next conflict and not the last one, we need to do both. We need to pay attention to both quantity and quality. And quality means defense technology. So we have to, as the Americans say, walk and chew gum at the same time. It is expensive, but as the minister said this morning, it is existential. And the key to achieving that, given our, let's say, scarce resources, is cooperation at the appropriate forum, European level, NATO, EU, whatever it takes. But we need to do both. So that's it for me. I hope I have been sufficiently quick.
Peter.
I have prepared some slides. Hopefully it will be showed now. I'd like to thank you all distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm privileged to be here. Greece is more or less my second home. I've been traveling back and forth to Greece many times already for the last years. So it feels really comfortable to be with you here today and to share, let's say, the Dutch thoughts and ideas we have to work together with Greece. Today's, let's say, the title of my presentation, the Netherlands is the Innovation Hub for Defense Technology. I don't make a deep dive into technology. I like to emphasize the importance of working together as nations for further development of new technology. Let me see. The organization I represent, the Netherlands Industries for Defense and Security, it's a foundation. It was founded 40 years ago by the Dutch government. Then, of course, the Dutch government, who's that in this case for to establish the NIDV. It was the Ministry of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Defense, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It was a joint, let's say, initiative to start the NIDV as a single point of contact to work with for defense procurement. It's the only branch organization in the Netherlands for defense and security. At this moment we have more than 200 companies involved, but not only companies. We do also have R&D centers like Netherlands National Aerospace Laboratory, TNO, MARIN for the naval market. But also polytechnics, universities, they're all involved in initiative of the NIDV. It's important that not everybody can join the NIDV. You have to, let's say, be part of the Dutch society, you have to be BV, you have to bring additional value to the Netherlands to be part of the organization I represent. Yeah, we don't have many OEMs in the Netherlands, but we do have some strength. I think we're quite good in composite materials. We work on a daily basis as defense, but also with the industries to, let's say, to improve the composite materials, to make them stronger, make them lighter. And also working on materials, also I mean nowadays raw materials. They are, let's say, not always easy to find nowadays, and also now working if we can find alternative, let's say, to replace existing raw materials that are not always are available. Sensor technology. We do have many companies in the Netherlands working for sensor technology, like Thales. They're one of the leaders for, let's say, radar systems, and I travel all over the globe. And everywhere I go, they always ask for Thales to talk with about the newest developments in radar systems. Research and development, universities, I said, TNO, NLR, defense. We all work together on, let's say, on a common basis to share information, to exchange information, and to make the Netherlands better. Simulators. We do have also companies in the Netherlands. They are, let's say, state of the art in developing simulators. Train as you fight, fight as you train. It has to be the best for the men and women in the war zone. We have to bring the best to defense. And yeah, the Netherlands is not very big. It's a less big a nation. As I say, I always say the same about Greece, to be honest, less big a nation. We are a seagoing nation. And we do have an excellent naval maritime industry, and also eager to work together with Greece. And we're aiming with the big company, one of the, we don't have many, but we do have Damen. And they are really interested in working together with, of course, with the Navy, but also with the naval industries here in Greece. The strengths of the Netherlands. We do have a creative and innovative tech ecosystem. It was mentioned before, you need a good ecosystem. And we do have a long tradition of developing innovative projects around the world. We travel all over the globe, I said. We do have a coalition as Team the Netherlands. I always go together with the Ministry of Defense and Economic Affairs as industry. And we always are working together with other nations for newest technology. We do, of course, have an innovation hub in the Netherlands, in Eindhoven. And we're also world leading in R&D. And we are a team, a close cooperation between the government, companies and startups. That's the whiz kids, the smart cookies. We need them. The young guys, they bring the best to the table nowadays and work together with the bigger companies that exist a little bit longer. The International Business Hub. The Netherlands is, I think, well organized with excellent, let's say, extensive infrastructure, but also an excellent wired infrastructure. And as I heard and as I've read, the Netherlands is second best wired country in the world. Last but not least, for the strength, is the triple helix. It was mentioned several times already today. That's our strength. All I do as industry, as a neutral entity, I work together with the MOD, Ministry of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the embassies, and also with research institutes abroad. At this moment, we do have a program in place. It was initiated by the Dutch government 4 years ago. And since 4 years, I'm now traveling back and forth to Greece to work on this program. It's named the PIB, is part is in international business, the Dutch Coalition for Defense and Security. And we work together with the Greek government, and especially DEFEA and also the industries. In this program, we work on exhibitions, also exchange of information. So we do have a K2K module in here. K2K means knowledge to knowledge, and we do have a budget available. I like to spend in Greece together with Commit, together with Fons. Mind, we like to bring it to Greece together with DEA to make it happen for you to be part of this program. Not only the government, because I think it's an important role for the industries as well. Another thing, Greece is quite successful in EDF. I think you're the best student in the class. We are not. So I'd like to learn from you a lot about EDF. Just an example for what we're doing as well. Maritime cooperation. I said we're a seagoing nation. The EU has developed instruments that will increase, let's say, European cooperation across Europe. Since a year now, we have established the Northern Naval Capability Cooperation, the NNCC, and this initiative of a group of North European countries for an increased cooperation with European regulations and initiatives. That fits exactly into the EDF. The northern countries are Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, the Netherlands, and Germany. We are all on the same sheet of music. And I heard that also the same initiative has started in the southern part of Europe. And I always say the northern part is the beer drinking coalition and the southern part is the wine drinking coalition. But let's share information. Is this a duplication, yes or no? I think the waters in the north and south differ from each other with the impacts, sensors, weapon systems and type of operations. It's a different environment. I think we have similarities, but we can share information. Let's work together and future developments can start from both backgrounds and we can learn from each other and especially in research and development phases. Let's share the information. This is my last slide. The nets, for me very important, is the NIDV Exhibition for Defense and Security. I would like to invite you all to come over to the Netherlands at the end of this year, the 21st of November. We do have an excellent program in place for, let's say, a foreign delegation, country pavilions. And it's an exhibition. We have matchmaking, EDF matchmaking, global matchmaking, site visits, a plenary program. Be welcome to the Netherlands and let's explore our joint path to the future. Thank you so much.
And Mr. George Giannopoulos from JRC.
Esteemed guests, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I think I don't have to say that it's a great pleasure for me to be here in Greece, being a Greek. But I would like to say a few words about the topic that we have been discussing today. And I have to say that many of the things that I was planning to mention have been already said. So maybe I can even strengthen the message. First of all, just to say a few words about the institution, the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. We are the, if you want, the research branch of the European Commission providing scientific advice for policy making. most of the policies that we implement at European level, be it the Green Deal or maybe the emissions for vehicles, for example, they require some kind of technical advice, which is, so somewhere in these policies, the JRC, the Joint Research Center, has put its hands on by providing the scientific knowledge. And this is also the case with security. So I would like to say a few words, to zoom out a little bit myself, as Dr. Dokos did before, and say a few words about the security research that we have been doing at the JRC, beginning of 2000 already. We started working a lot on critical infrastructure protection, very much focused on specific technologies, on specific topics. How can we make critical infrastructures more secure? At a certain point, this started evolving. How can we make, the question was, how can we make critical infrastructure, for example, more resilient? So we started broadening a little bit the scope of our activities. And that evolved also because the geopolitical landscape evolved, also because the threats evolved, they were different. And we started looking to topics like space infrastructure, which back in 2010, 2012 was quite exotic. But today we heard how important it is for defense. And I'm really proud that in my unit we are working on the Galileo, we are working on the public regulated service. So all what you heard before in terms of policies, there is some scientific work behind taking place in our laboratories in order to be able to support the implementation, the conception and implementation of such big initiatives. And then with what happened in Ukraine in 2014, we started thinking about hybrid warfare and hybrid threats. And we realized that there was no conceptual approach to this problem. So we started developing the concept of hybrid threats, which expanded again even more our knowledge in the domain of security, starting also to touch upon defense. Because hybrid threats, by definition, is a concept that was born in the military domain, but was brought also in the civil domain. So it's something that sits in between. And then we had the first parallel and coordinated exercise between the European Union and NATO, which we supported. And then we had scenarios that involved both entities, although with limited interaction at a certain point, but still it was the first step. So at the end of the day, what we saw is that we started blurring the boundaries between civil and military domain. And this is what is happening also in terms of technology. In the past, we had a lot of innovation happening in the military domain, which then became public, in particular after the 90s. It found its way in the civil domain with many companies taking advantage of all these technologies and developing even more. But now we have the opposite, actually the opposite case, that we have a lot of technologies, a lot of components of the self that they are developed by the civil domain, which can find their way in the military domain. And this is particularly challenging because, for example, the Horizon Europe program is conceived for civil applications, but we have the concept of dual use, which allow us, let's say, to see which of these technologies can find their way also in the military domain. Now, for the first time, I have to say, and today we heard a lot of first-timers, I think that the European Commission put a lot of effort on the technologies themselves. So for the first time, we have a list of critical technologies. And these critical technologies are not necessarily coming from operational needs from the from the Ministries of Defense, for example, but they go a little bit, we take, let's say, a little bit of a bigger picture, trying to see which are these critical technologies that the European Union has to have access. So it's more about supply chains of critical technologies, because these technologies, we know that one way or the other, they will find their, let's say, application in an operational way. So that's why we came up with this technology list. We have the, what you heard already, the strategy, the UDIS that came earlier this year. We have the European Defence Fund that aims at developing these technologies, and so on. For me, that's a very important topic, that we have this change of mindset. We are looking at technologies because technologies are a strategic enabler. Without the technological innovation and autonomous access to certain technologies, we cannot be a credible geopolitical actor in the EU. And to conclude, I think that in an ideal world, we would have at the European Union, for example, a common threat assessment. On the basis of this threat assessment, we would be able to develop the necessary technologies, transform it into operational capabilities, and that should be it. But we don't live in such a world. We have different threat analysis across Europe. We have different understandings of the threat landscape. And I think that this connects very well with the previous presentation, that we can cooperate when we can, but we can specialize when it is needed. And this is, of course, the case also for technologies. So thank you very much. And
Since we do not have enough time, just 15 minutes at most, I will start directly with the questions, and I will start with you, George. We referred, I think most of us, to that list of critical technologies, okay? And there are many overlaps. I think they're about the same. The critical technologies of EU, the critical technologies of NATO, based on your experience and the work that you are doing in JRC. What you consider as the technology areas that provide the more opportunities for exploitation?
yes, I will zoom out again a little bit. And I would like to say that, first of all, if we see all these technologies, we see a pattern somehow behind all these technologies. So first of all, it is about technologies that help us gain situational awareness, which means understanding what is going on. And this is about sensors. And this is, for example, quantum. So this is one very important capability that we need to develop, for sure. The second very important element that we see hidden somehow behind this list of technologies is the fact that we need to invest in critical infrastructures, if you want, that would enable us to be operational when needed. And this is, for example, the case of space. Mm-hmm. And I would say the third part would be on access to the necessary resources, which includes, to a certain extent, talent. It's not a part of technology, of course, but we need the talent in order to be able to develop this kind of technologies. Now, of course, I see a great potential in space, not for any other reason, but because it combines many of these, let's say, general characteristics. It supports fully operational situational awareness. It is also about operational capabilities, and it is a relatively new infrastructure, if you want. On the other hand, it has a huge potential with the new space economy to develop new startups, to develop new companies, and finance really what I would call even exotic projects, but projects that have long-term potential. So it can be in the short term, but it can also be in the long run, an area where I could see a lot of development. I don't have to repeat what was mentioned before by Director Kavala, but you see that telecommunications, space-based telecommunications will be even more important. Space-based situational awareness with the governmental service of Copernicus will be even more important. Position, navigation, and timing for civil, but also for military applications with the Galileo PRS. So all the elements are there. There is a huge potential for further development. And of course, in all that, we can include quantum, because quantum communication can be done also in space. We haven't done it yet, but there is full, let's say, a great potential to develop that in the future.
Okay, so it seems that we agree space as a priority, as a game changer that we were saying before, yeah? Quantum is research, is mostly research so far, but it's at this stage, but it's something that we need to invest more and more for the future because it will provide a lot of opportunities along with human resources, as you were saying about the talent. How about you, Peter? Any short feedback on this? Short remark?
Yes, I do. As just mentioned, space is really important. I'd like to mention that I think a year ago in the Royal Netherlands Air Force, a new space command was, let's say, started because space is one of the pillars of, let's say, the Netherlands. As NIDV, we started an initiative with the Dutch space companies together with the USA, and would like to exchange all kind of information, so PIB, together with the government and industries, together with the Pentagon and Air Force Research Lab, it's meant for also the civil sector, for Earth observation, for the scientists, to see what's happening on Earth. So we can use it for military purposes. And that's what we do. We make always the combination. Also for sensor technology and everything, Philips Healthcare is one of our members. They are working in the medical sector, and they develop all kind of new initiatives for treatment. Also laser beams. We can use them for the radar technology. So we connect everything in the world for defense and security. That's what we do.
Okay. So, dual use.
Dual use, everything
Dual use is something that needs to be stressed, and space is an excellent paradigm on this one.
True.
Vasily, any final remark on this?
Very quickly, sorry about that. Very quickly, I think that my answer would be depends. All of them will be necessary. All these EDTIDs will have and will continue to have enormous potential. The key question for me is how to foster the ability to exploit them when the opportunity comes, when it arises. And this needs R&D investment. This needs close cooperation within the entire ecosystem, let's say, to create those clusters and valleys and this needs close cooperation also between end users and industry. And finally, this is an important aspect, if we want to talk about real exploitation, full exploitation, we need technological sovereignty. If a technology is a black box, if you do not have control over it, you cannot tailor it to your needs, you cannot continue developing it, it's just someone else comes, gives it to you, and just this is it, you take it or leave it, basically, on their terms. If you want full exploitation, you really need technological sovereignty. Yeah.
And at a national level, I think this is very much related to what Peter said before in his presentation about the triple helix approach. And I would like to stress it also for the... I'm coming from a research center, from the National Research Center Demokritos. So the collaboration between government, research, academia, and industry is the appropriate way to proceed. Peter?
Yeah, that's our success, to be honest. You know, what I said, working together, exchange information, respect each other's, let's say, position. I'm industry, but I'm a neutral entity as an IDV, but the companies I represent, they are, let's say, they're commercial. They want to sell something. So we have to exchange information, and when you work together closely in this world of defense and security, you have to work together, nationally, but also internationally. Don't be competitors, be friends with the same goal to make business. At the end, you divide, let's say, the cake into two, then we're all the winners. That's what we're going for.
Okay, this is something that we have to take into account in the newly established, the about to be established Greek Center for Defense Innovation, the collaboration with research academia and industry. And we have heard about initiatives in the national initiatives in EU, initiatives in NATO, many different initiatives. I have worked personally in European Defence Fund projects, in NATO projects. But this is personal. I didn't find channels of better, more effective collaboration between each other. And I would like to ask Vasilis about this, because Vasilis had roles in both in the EU and also in NATO, if I remember well.
Yes. So, of course, it would be ideal to have, let's say, a more uniform, more aligned, let's say, policy between national EU, NATO level, right? Because we have one set of forces, as we say, one set of industries, one set of technological objectives, in a sense, and one set of defense and technology budgets.
Especially now that we face all these challenges, eh?
Exactly. So, in theory, we have to, given that we have scarce resources, we need to optimize our use for it. So, in theory, ideally, yes. However, practically, and sorry to be pessimistic, I think this is not as easy as it sounds, because you have different stakeholders involved, right? And I will take, let's say, an easy example, let's say, in this audience. Would EU, because to have a full alignment, it means that EU member states, all EU member states, should have to somehow align their defense technological industrial policies with all non-EU NATO allies, right? If you want to have a fully aligned NATO-EU policy. Would EU member states be willing to, let's say, have the US or Turkey or the UK and so on set the tone? Or say, oh no, I don't want this, I want this. So I find it challenging, practically. Of course, we need maximum alignment because, again, we have one set of forces, we have scarce resources, but to make at least at this point, my approach would be to make the most of it, you need to capitalize on the strengths of each organization. NATO is excellent at aggregating, let's say, operational requirements, right? They have these capability targets. This is what it does. But the EU has a much richer and stronger toolbox when it comes to defense industrial policy. So an idea here, for example, would be that you take, let's say, for example, EU member states could take the capability targets that they are allocated through the NDPP, and then you aggregate them and you transform them into defense industrial capacity targets. And then this feeds into the EU plan, the EU defense, let's say, industrial planning. So you capitalize both on the strengths of the two worlds, but fully bringing in the two together, I find it, I would find it a bit challenging.
George?
I fully agree. Actually, I'm 100% in line with what was mentioned on this point, because we can only achieve complementarity here. So, to put it very simply, as it was said before, NATO has specific operational needs which require certain platforms. To build these platforms, then, we need, from a European perspective, access to specific technologies, to specific critical technologies. So we need to develop the research and industrial capacity in Europe. And then where the EU steps in with the strategies and the programs to develop this kind of capability. We will never develop through the EU programs operational capabilities the same way that NATO does. We don't have this capacity, but for sure we can support the European industry to provide the necessary technology components that are needed also for NATO. In that way, we can find complementarity, and I like the point mentioned in your presentation, where it is, cooperation where it's needed and specialization when it's needed again.
Sure. Peter, yeah?
Yeah, I think on the same sheet of music as we all are. I'd like to say a few words at the end about, let's say, investing in the future for, let's say, for people. Semiconductors in the Netherlands is really important. ASML is the leading company in the world. At this moment, we need 40,000 new people. So we have to invest also in training and education internationally, so to provide this market for defense industries. It's really important. And hopefully we can also start a relationship with Greece, working with universities, academia, to start a defense, let's say, master degree or as another degree for training for all the students, to make them ready, let's say, for the defense industries, as well for defense itself.
So education and training is really an issue. In these critical technology areas that were mentioned before, either artificial intelligence, semiconductors, quantum, as we were saying before, communications. So, to conclude, because we do not have more time, and to sum up, in this panel, we tried to set the context, focusing on the critical technology areas that can be exploited in defense innovation. Such technology areas were stressed, along with the need for having trained personnel, needs for programs, education programs on quantum computing, on semiconductors, on artificial intelligence. We stress the dual use of technology, and this is something that we have to take into account. It was stressed by all the panelists here, and also to find more ways to align, not fully match, initiatives, national initiatives, EU initiatives, and NATO initiatives. And with this final word, I would like to thank you all, George, Vasily, Peter, George, for participating in this panel. And thank you also the audience, thanks also to the audience for attending this panel. Thank you so much.